Now, I gotta admit, this episode of My Hero Academia, episode 1 of season 5, I found to be very entertaining. I've reviewed this show ever since season 2, episode 1. Usually, the first episode of the season I skip out on discussing because it's a recap, it's a rehash, it's saying, hey, here's a character's power, here's a little thing to kind of like make it not just simply be, here's character, here's her power, there's some little fight or something to tie it together, and maybe you get a cliffhanger to kind of lead you into the actual first episode, which is titled episode 2. I had a bit of time, so unlike usually what I do is I wait until later on the night I watch the episode because it is a good refresher. It's been a year since we watched My Hero, so it's a good way to be like, oh, yep, that's that character, that's the power. It does serve a purpose, but it usually doesn't serve a purpose to make a video on it. But because of just the way things are going for this day, I had time to watch it early, and I'm really glad I did. I had a lot of fun, so much fun, I would say that this was the best first episode since like season 2 of the My Hero season. Yes, it was a recap. Yes, it was, here's a character's power. But it also felt more like a standard My Hero episode where even if the training isn't going to influence the plot going forward, the training montage of seeing once again, in this case, the big three being the villains and all the characters working together doing one of their practice missions, it was ridiculously fun. It was really cool just to see all the individual abilities work together. But it was also, I thought they did a great job at actually refreshing you on how last season insanely ended, which I did forget about because it's been a hot minute. So you see like, oh yeah, Endeavor, everything with Hawks, you're like, that's really cool. Season 5 is going to go crazy with that. And then by the end of the episode, you see our boy Hawks walk towards Dabi, and I'm like, wait a second, are you baiting us? Is this like blackmail? Did Hawks turn evil? Is Hawks trying to play both sides and really is going to use it to help Endeavor? You don't know, but that cliffhanger had me shook. Even without the cliffhanger, I was ready to say this was a great first episode. Yes, it was recap. Yes, it was. Here's the first few minutes recapping what happened at the end of last season. But then to see like how the characters are like taking it, I mean, Endeavor wasn't really having that great of a shot with being #1 hero since All Might had to retire. And to see like the class like hyping them up, being like, did you see what he did? Oh, of course, this is exactly what a #1 hero would do. It was really great to see that. And then to just see the combination of abilities, like I just love watching these characters who, even though we've known them, I think this is episode 89 in the grand scheme of things, most of these characters have been there since the very first season, right? But it's great to see like how watching them work together and just kind of remembering how foolish they acted in the early stages of this show. It was great to see that, and then to just see like our boy floating in the river there and be like, oh no, I fell over again. There's just a lot of comfy comedic relief as you're seeing like there's definitely these hints of what I assume could imply something that might bite them in the ass, like the idea of that Deku actually didn't use his attack, he said please surrender. And then he's saying, I'm a villain, you have to attack me, and then in comes Bakugo to actually go a little too extreme, but still at the same time, to finish up the mission, all things considered. But the idea of Deku not being able to hurt a friend, like, I wonder if that will come to bite him in the ass in the future, if maybe he'll be like, oh, what if there comes a point where he actually has to do an attack that will defeat an enemy, but also would hurt a friend? Could he do that, right? So it does get your mind racing, and it reminds you of what the character's characteristics actually are. Remembering how far Bakugo has come, but also understanding he is a fiery beast, that's really interesting. This was one of those episodes that I think, had we not seen the general formula of how the My Hero Academia seasons work, of like reintroducing you to the world with some sort of like miniature plot to kind of tie it all together, you could remove the recap of what happened at the end of last season, remove the cliffhanger that sets up next week and probably the first core of season 5, and you would just have a general shonen battle. That's kind of how it works. It's very reminiscent to, I would say, some of the earlier stuff of season 2 when they're doing mock training and things like that. And to me, that was really, really interesting. But without a doubt, the most fascinating thing about this episode was the cliffhanger. The idea of seeing our boy in the hospital, like, it's kind of insane because like that battle last season was ridiculous. It was brutal. But to actually see someone so strong and like, you know, even though he had a victory pose, you knew he was going to need some recovery. Still, to see something like that, it was actually kind of mind-blowing. And then to see just the casual conversation where there's a lot of different ways it could go, and I'm not sure which one I'm placing money on, because it feels to me like Hawks is very much like enthralled by Endeavor, and the idea that he's very much becoming like the next All Might but in his own way. So for him to full on betray just doesn't seem likely, but at the same time I could easily see how that could work so well So I don't know which one I want to place money on. On one hand, I definitely think that it could be a blackmail situation where like Hawks is, unfortunately has to do this, or two, maybe Hawks is trying to play both sides and, that's going to eventually bite him in the ass. Either way, whatever direction they go, betrayal, blackmail, or kind of playing both sides, I think either of those possibilities could become really interesting plot threads in the future. And if Endeavor finds out before it's revealed, and if he's actually doing it for good reasons, that could be very, very troublesome. I think this episode was just ridiculously fun. And like I said, I think the last time I reviewed an episode 1 of My Hero was season 2. And I don't even remember if season 2 had the same kind of format of just being a recap, but either way, just watching what they were able to do with such a miniature fight. Sure, was it the flashiest thing ever? No, but did it need to be? No. There's a lot of comedic relief, like our boy saying, I just want to go home, and then by the time the episode actually ends, he's really wishing he could have just went home. But to see just how their abilities are working together, I like the simple idea of like having scouts, wanting to go help their friends, but another saying, hey, this is our job, we have to be recon, basically. It's nice to see that they're not the same kids they once were, and even though there's certain characteristics that they'll probably have to overcome, like that desire to immediately go rush to help their friends, even though you can't abandon your part of the mission because it can make the entire mission fall apart, or Deku not able to attack a friend even in a mock battle, because he is a villain, you have to go all out. So I like the idea that there are these like lingering thoughts about how that could bite these characters in the ass, but also appreciating how far they have come in these mock battles. It's nice to see them all excited for them rather than, when it was the very first time and it was just kind of all out chaos, everyone fends for themselves, seeing how far someone like Bakugo is gone. This idea that he's like criticizing his little ally there as he's charging the car with his teeth. It was just, there was a lot of goofy fun, there was some serious fun, and without a doubt, I think the way they recap the beginning of the episode, only a few minutes, and then they end you with that cliffhanger, I feel like they didn't waste your time as much as I'm used to with the first episode. And while, yeah, there were the, here's character's name and title and ability, it wasn't like you could take every single moment in this episode that they did that, and it wouldn't even equal a fourth, I feel like. They did it very quick, and I feel like at this point it's simply just here to say, it's been a hot minute, it's been a year, we're gonna remind you without actually just saying you're just watching a slideshow of information you are going to remember as soon as you see them use their abilities. So for me, if they want to continue doing mock battles at the beginning of the season and kind of giving you a cliffhanger at the end with a slight info dump of what happened last time, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think people are going to have fun with this one. And I have to say, the new opening and endings, opening-wise, it's good. It was something that I thought was pleasant to listen to. There were some nice shots in there. It wasn't something that, like, knocked me away, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh, this is a horrible opening. I was like, this is a good My Hero opening, and depending on where the story goes, it could fit very well for the narrative. But the ending itself, that is amazing. If there's anything I will not skip in the My Hero, like, soundtrack-wise this season, it's that ending. There was something not only visually majestic about how it was a slideshow, but the way they transitioned to the next frame, and the beautiful song that was accompanying it. I really dug that, I have to say. Ending, without a doubt, my favorite part of between the opening and endings, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go, and I assume this will be a 2-course straight, as we're generally used to with My Hero, and obviously where the next opening and ending will go for sure, but yeah. Cliffhanger has me shook, excited, and desiring more. That's the best way to put it. It's really great, but let me know your thoughts about how they handled the intro to Season 5. Obviously, everyone knows at this point we're going to get some sort of like a recap and little fillerish kind of style to get us reintroduced. But did you enjoy it as much as myself, or were you like, you know what, it's what I expected, nothing too great, nothing too bad? Whatever you're feeling, let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, of course, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you have been around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.